Hey, it's John McGlynn of Dynasty Evaluation. We are here tonight. We got a great guest, Peter Nova. We are ready to talk about more rookies. This is what it is, a rookie spotlight series. We got Mr. Arroyo on today, so get ready for a show.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
This is John McGlynn. We are in to have a good time here with the co-host of the Mo-host, JT Orange. We just got off the phone here with our guy, Tip Major. We went through all the good things that are Shadur Sanders. So we got a 3-part series here tonight. You are the peanut butter and jelly in the middle of me and JT's bread here. So Peter Nova, tell everybody where they can find you. What's going on in your life, all the good stuff you got going on in the fantasy football world.
Yeah, happy to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on. You can find me over at the Face Off Sports Network. It's where I do most of my content. Big on defense. IDP is one of my strong suits, especially this past season. Do a lot of content, diving into NFL draft stuff as well, just like you guys are. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
More IDP guys. JT, music to your ears right now with this IDP stuff. Where JT, tell everybody where they can find you as long as we got here to talk about IDP. So
I love it. IDP, man. We're gonna do a rookie mock draft here later on tonight on Fantasy and Frames on the Stu with JT Brew, my show. But I'm already thinking about I want one of these sites to get IDP guys in there, rookies, so we're gonna do an IDP rookie mock draft. I want to get one in there bad, but of course, no one has got the rookies in there yet, so we're gonna have to wait on that one for a little while. I think you can find me at JT Orange on the X. All my writings, all my stuff is on DLF. Also during the season, I write a bunch for Fan Tracks doing Dynasty. Highs and lows, guys are raising up the list, and guys are falling. So I do that as well. And then Fantasy and Frames, I do my IDP plays and fades during the season over there, and also write all kinds of rookie content everywhere. Anyone who will let me write and do rookie pre-draft content, I do it though. So, and now I'm doing these shows with you, John, and I'm pumped. Sure, Sanders got me all fired up. I'm a big Sugar guy, so I'm glad we did that one. So now we're into tight end and then a wide receiver later. So I like it. We're mixing it up today.
what kind of rankings you do on that DLF stuff?
DLF, I do my top 150 Dynasty rankings for IDP, and then I also this year am doing my top 75 Devy rankings as well. So just updated those last night about 3 a.m. I finally got to them, updated them, and I'll continue to tweak them here throughout the off season.
Just so everybody knows, there'll be no IDP talk on this show today. Okay,
I'm good. I got my fix in.
There you go. Plugged it away.
I'm battling a cough here a little bit, guys, so sorry about that. But anyway, what we got here is Peter Nova talking about an up-and-coming talent, which is Elijah Arroyo. So why don't you get started? Tell me all the good stuff that is to know about the tight end, Elijah Arroyo. On that, we're talking about all the stuff you saw on tape, all the stuff you saw on paper, all the stuff you saw anywhere. Tell me about the good stuff. What is the goodness of Elijah Arroyo?
Yeah, with Elijah Arroyo, big frame, 6'4", 245. He's a guy that clocked in at 21.8 miles per hour. That was the fastest time that he clocked in last year. It was actually faster than Xavier Worthy of the Chiefs, who everyone knows is extremely fast guy, had a really great combine and a good 40. But he led all tight ends with 30-plus targets in yards after catch per reception with 9.1. 4-star recruit coming out of high school. So he has that pedigree as well. 11.1 depth of target. It's actually the most. It's more than the big four. Taylor, Warren, Fannin, and Ferguson. If you don't count Loveland, I believe Loveland had higher, so he was the only one. But if you are familiar with this tight end class, the big four is Taylor, Warren, Fannin, Loveland, and then obviously Arroyo as well. Arroyo had a larger depth of a farther depth of target than all of them but Loveland. And yeah, he's a fluid route runner. Long frame as well, has a really good catch radius. Last year he scored 7 times in a Miami offense that, was really high powered. And we didn't see a lot of this guy, and we'll get into that as well, but we didn't see a ton of him in college, but bursted onto the scene, especially a lot of people didn't know who he was until mobile, and a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz of him kind of going up the boards. A lot of the bigger talking heads, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, these guys are projecting him possibly even first round. So he's obviously got the talent, and I'm excited to see where he lands.
JT, I saw a lot of good stuff about Elijah Arroyo, especially this year, because there wasn't a lot of injuries kind of hampered his earlier stuff. So this year he kind of went off, man, and he made a big name for himself. And then people got to see him at the Senior Bowl here do his thing also. So one of the best players at the Senior Bowl. A lot of good stuff to say about him. I mean, it wasn't much to say before, but a lot of good stuff to say about him now. What do you know about Elijah Arroyo?
Yeah, I mean, missed basically 2 full seasons with injuries, but was a big name coming out of high school. Like Beat said, 4-star out of Texas. A lot of, every program basically was looking at him. We just didn't know we were going to get out of him with all the injuries. I think Cam Ward going to Miami this year made a big difference. Got him a chance. He was able to stay healthy. Obviously, that's the biggest thing, was able to stay healthy, stay on the field. And a nice year, 35 catches, 590 yards, 7 touchdowns. Now, we've gotten a little bit spoiled, I would say, with some of the Brock Bowers years and with Ty Warren, what he did this year and what Fannin did. That's a really solid year for a tight end in college. So, I mean, we've seen these guys catching 100 balls, 1,000 yards. It's blowing our minds. It's just not typical that we see that in production in college from a tight end. There's just not very many programs that set things up to kind of get their tight end involved. He's not going to match all those other guys' numbers, but he was a very, very solid target and outlet for Cam Ward. Like I said, 35 catches, 597 touchdowns, 16.9 yards per catch. I think he's a guy that plays faster than maybe he's been timed. Like he said, like he had that really high miles per hour. I think he is a guy that's going to go up boards as people kind of look at him and see the ability. Obviously, kind of the knock on him is the injury. For me right now, he's a guy, rising up my list of tight ends. As of right now, he's tight end 7 for me. But that he definitely has room to go up, especially to see where he ends up getting drafted. I really think he's a combo of like a Brenton Strange and an Isaiah Likely. I think he's got more of like a Brenton Strange body where he's bigger and he can block, but I think he catches a lot better than him. I think he catches more like Isaiah Likely, who's more of a slot tight end. So I think he's like a nice mix. I think if he ends up on the right type of team, he could really end up being a very nice player at the next level. So he's a guy I'm excited about. Really, the Senior Bowl got him out there, where got him in front of people who hadn't seen his tape. Obviously, if you watch Cam Ward, you saw him on tape. But if you hadn't watched much of Cam Ward, you were able to kind of see what he was able to do. I
can't wait. We did a rookie mock draft before the Senior Bowl started. Okay, I can't wait to tell you guys where he went in that one, and then see where he's going to go when after the NFL draft, when he's drafted. We'll talk about that later in the show too. But that's going to be a great discussion for later in the show, because I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a different story come NFL draft time. But good stuff. There's a limited amount of good stuff for Elijah Arroyo. He only had one good season, and on top of that one good season, he had a handful of like really long plays, really good plays that he made some things happen. But there's a tight end pop pass worth like 70 yards that he was the only guy on the entire field. I mean, if you were to zoom back with a blimp and show a picture of the screen, you see Elijah Arroyo by himself in the middle of the field on this tight end pop pass. It just kind of worked. It was absolutely wonderful to see. But dude had some long plays, but he's got natural hands, man. You know, that was one thing he does. He knows how to catch the ball. He doesn't drop. He doesn't have the dropsies. You know, that he's good receiver, talented. He's super underrated right now. Too bad we weren't having rookie drafts today because I'd be trading up to get him wherever I possibly could. But he's going to be a riser for sure in these fantasy drafts that we're all going to be doing pretty soon as the time comes on. So, like I said, positive, negatives, they're not going to be that much in this whole conversation here, but there will be some. Chris Joel Smith, as always, checking in with the woo. We love it. We look for it. We want more of it. I want Nico Collins and Elijah Arroyo on the same Tex offense, taking the top off defenses. That would be nice, Mr. Brandon Hallam. That would be nice. I would like that too. They need a good tight end. So
it's Kate Stover still. Don't forget about Kate Stover.
I just picked him up in our league.
Just going in her second year. I do like Kate Stover.
He was sitting on the waiver wire in the league. I was, they had nothing to do but comb through the players that were. So I saw Stover still sitting out there. There's no guarantee they're going to pick anybody because Stover's the second year or whatever. So
yeah, I'm just going to say there, Pete. If you don't know, me and John, we just fight over taking every tight end in every rookie draft in the 4th and 5th round. It's never fails that we get to the 4th or 5th round, and me and John both have like 3 or 4 picks. People are like, "Why do you guys have so?" Because we throw a 4th or a 5th into every trade we get, and then we just load up with taking every tight end that's in the draft and hold them to see if they're going to hit. That's what we love to do. We love tight ends.
I mean, that's the thing, though, right? Like you brought it up about Bowers, and we have been super spoiled. Like I think like a couple of years back, we were thirsty for tight ends, right? Like there just really wasn't a ton of production at the position. You know, a lot of great players retired, and there just really wasn't many guys stepping up. You know, you had Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce for a while and George Kittle, but then there was just a significant drop off. Then you had McBride come in. You obviously had Bowers last year. There was just a bunch of more, and you had Pitts, obviously, that great rookie year. But we've gotten to the point where we're so spoiled that we just expect these guys to come onto the scene now and play really well. And so having late picks, right, and throwing them at tight ends, it's the slowest developing position in the NFL because you're practically playing 2 roles. You're playing as a receiver and you're practically playing as a left tackle and sometimes even fullback if they line you up in the backfield as an H-back. So, yeah, I mean, I love that strategy. I kind of do something similar where a lot of my teams have a lot of high upside tight ends, like, you know, that maybe get drafted later on in the NFL where maybe they stick, maybe they don't, but they have upside and maybe they hit if they have the time to develop and they're granted that time. So I get it.
Quit, Brandon Hallam, quit talking shit about tight ends blocking. Yeah, on the field more when you block, buddy. If you don't know how to block, you're sitting on the sidelines, except when it's another receiver. When you get 3 and 4 receiver sets. So get out of here.
See, John's against taxi squads, but that's why I love leagues that I have taxi because I love to take those tight ends because I know it's going to be 2 or 3 years for a lot of those guys, and I'm gonna stash them on the taxi, hold them for a couple years, and if they don't hit, then I just drop them and pick up another rookie tight end and hold him for a couple years. It's just over again. It's worked a couple times. Not a lot, but it's worked a couple times.
Would you rather have a 12-team 35-man roster or a 12-team 25-man roster with a taxi squad? Do you touch your guys? What the hell's the difference? To me, I don't get it. I don't understand it.
You know, the tough thing about Dynasty is that it's like it can be stagnant. And if you have just enough where it's like it's not too overwhelming, where there's nobody on waivers, it's kind of nice. So I'm kind of with John where I do have taxi squads, but it's usually like maybe 2, 3. I don't usually go with 5. It just sometimes guys just, I don't know, people don't pick up. It's just I like activity, you know, I like activity. And so it's easier when there's more in the pool.
I was in a league where you could actually go on people's taxi squads and steal from players. They had to match you with their picks and stuff. It was super cool because those guys, even though they're not on the active roster, if somebody held them on taxi squad, you could. If somebody said I'm claiming him, you would have to either give that person the pick that they picked them with, and the person would have to match it, or they'd give the player away kind of for that, or trade him to somebody else in the league who wanted it for more than what they got. It was pretty cool, but it got a little wild for a while. I'm like, shit, you couldn't really have it. That's why I think I have such a bad taste in my mouth about taxi squads because when your roster's full and you got these guys in taxi squad that you like and they're getting poached all the time because people are, I'll take this guy and that guy. They did it on purpose. It was like the Wild West in this league. And then people would elevate them. People who didn't draft well, didn't have any draft picks, would go back and poach your entire taxi squad. I'm like, this is bullshit, man. So
because you do the homework and it's like they're being rewarded for you being smart enough to stash them away.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what, this take this league and give it to somebody else. This is bullshit. I'm done. But anyway, that's my rant on taxi squads, because that was not all taxi squads are like that. I'm in a league with Michael Bowers and them guys. It's Dynasty Rewind guys, and it's like they have like 20 taxi squad spots. So I'm okay with that because I can import my entire rookie roster. It's a C2C league, you know. It's super not, you know, it's all right. I'll get used to it eventually. And there's different rules for each one. That one there's no poaching in, so you can sit on guys, but that was like a 60-man roster. So it's like, okay, not too much trades. It does get a little bit stagnant. So you know, it is what it is. But anyway,
trying to get us off track, John. That's my fault.
we love getting off track here. Half-hour shows always are 55 minutes for a reason. That's what happens. Yes. So
it happens.
So the next question is, okay. So Elijah Arroyo, we already talked about the good on paper, analytics, all that stuff. What about the bad on paper, analytics, test scores, shit, you know, stuff like that? I'll let you guys already say that we already talked about injury prone being one of the situations. What else did you see? You know, Pete, well, you're the guest here. We'll let you start off with some of the bads for Elijah Arroyo. What did you see like on paper, scores, that kind of stuff about that you could talk about?
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention too, and this is more of the good, you did talk about drops and I didn't want to cut you off, but 2.1% drop rate. So he's got really soft hands, like you said. So that was definitely good to note. But as for weaknesses, the obvious thing that stands out for him is blocking, right? And that's the toughest thing with tight ends, right? Like you look at Greg Dulcich, like as a Broncos fan, like he didn't stick because he just couldn't block in Sean Payton's scheme. And a lot of these tight ends, like, you know, we're getting to a newer era where, you know, you have Isaiah Likely, you have some of these guys that become a move tight end and they're moved around like Mike Gesicki, and good offense coordinators sometimes can make it work. But for him, you know, it definitely needs a little bit of work. He's definitely a willing blocker. You know, there was a clip out there from the Senior Bowl of him missing an assignment, but you know, if you watch it closely, he misses his assignment, but then looks for work immediately after. And I think that's encouraging because it's not an issue of a guy that just doesn't like to block. It's just more of, he needs to fix his hands. He has the frame for it. He's 6'4", he's 245. He's not super skinny, which, you know, you look at Fannin, who I think is like 230. He's got enough size to be a capable blocker, but 61 run block grade from PFF, 70 on the pass block. So he's definitely better in pass pro than he is in run blocking. So it's just going to be a matter of getting his hands in the right place. And then obviously, we talked about the durability concerns, right? Missing 2 full seasons due to a knee injury and limited production in college, right? Because of that, you know, it's kind of a wild card. Do you take a guy in the first round in the NFL draft or high in the second where you've really only seen one really good year from him? He's had injury concerns with his knee where he's torn ligaments. And then we've seen him blow up at the Senior Bowl, right? Like, is that enough to justify taking a risk in drafting a guy first round? I don't know. I think it's a little rich. I think he's probably going to go in the second, but there's a lot of talks about that. So we'll see. But I mean, durability, obviously, and the blocking just stands out the most. He's an athletic freak. He can do pretty much anything you ask him to do. It's just a matter of, can he stay on the field in situations where it calls for a guy to be out there and block? We'll have to see if that translates for him.
A lot of guys convert from wide receiver that aren't fast enough to play wide receiver in the NFL, and they become tight ends in the NFL because of the fact that they're just not fast enough to play wide receiver. You know, that's okay. They're just not used to blocking. And when you have to learn how to play left tackle, right tackle, both of the positions pretty much when you're, you know, wherever the strong side is, and you also have to play, you have to know the wide receiver route tree. You have to know all the, you know, it's a whole different story trying to be a tight end. I tried playing tight end when I got to college because I was so sick of being left tackle. A, I'm 5'11". B, I was 250 pounds. And C, I was slow. I probably ran like a 4.17,040, and I'm sure it didn't work out too well. But yeah, I went right back to the offensive line, so it didn't work out too well. It's a whole different story when you try to move from just like a lineman to tight end than it does moving from wide receiver to tight end, because then learning how to block, especially when you're blocking defensive ends and outside linebackers, they're not the easiest guys to block either. And if you haven't blocked before and you're taking on the best players in the league at rushing the quarterback, it's not an easy task. So, JT, what are some flaws about my boy Elijah Arroyo here, who's flying up draft boards?
I think, you know, one of the positive, he did miss those multiple seasons. The positive is he is only 21. So it's not like he missed multiple seasons, and he's like a multiple fifth-year senior, and he's like 25 or 24 going in. So I think that does help a little bit. And then they're like, hey, he still is young. He's technically a redshirt sophomore, but he did only have that 1 year. The thing that worries me a little bit, his hand size is pretty small, especially when it comes to tight ends. I think he's in the lowest 40 percentile. He's only got a 9.58 hand, which is not very big for a tight end. But the thing that does help him, he's got a really nice wingspan. His wingspan's in the top 84 percentile, 81 and 1/8. So he does have long arms, has a really nice wingspan. So the good thing about the wingspan is you would think that as he learns technique, that should help him with the blocking. He should be able to keep guys off of him with the longer arms. So I think that's something he can improve on. I think teams are going to like that he has the longer arms. That's something that they think they can teach him. I think being hurt for 2 years obviously has killed his blocking because he hadn't had a lot of time to practice blocking. And that's blocking is one of those things that you got to do it over and over and over again to get better at it. So I think he's more of like a third round pick. I think people are liking him, and I think he's going up. I do really like this tight end draft class overall. But with the knee injuries and stuff, I think he's more of a third rounder, but I also have to be honest with you. I didn't think Brenton Strange was going to go in the second round. So when he went so I could see Arroyo getting somebody really falling in love with him and taking him late in the second round. I do think he's got enough of body size that he could probably put on some weight. The fact he's only 21, I do think they could probably beef him up to maybe 255, 260, and hopefully not lose a ton of the speed. And for me, I always think the biggest thing when it comes to tight ends, I think as you look at when they were coming out of high school, what were they? Were they a tight end? Were they a defensive end? Were they a wide receiver? What did they play? He was a tight end, and he was a high 4-star. So to me, tight end, you want to have that athletic background, that multiple athletic ability. I think that is going to help him coming out of Frisco, Texas, just a really, prime spot for high school football talent. I think that is also going to play a factor in for teams knowing like, hey, this guy's still got room to grow. He has been banged up. If we can get decent medicals on him where we don't think it's something that's going to, be constantly coming up. I think that could be good. And again, as he gets stronger and bigger, who doesn't say that 40 time doesn't get up faster? I mean, if he gets crazy and runs, he's already running in the high 4.6s. If he gets that lower, at his size, that's really pretty impressive. So if he can get that up just even a little bit better at a pro day or something, I think you're going to have teams, just all over him with that. But the big thing for me is the injuries, the inexperience. Again, to repeat what Pete said, it's not that I don't think he can block or learn to block. This is one of the things he hasn't had a lot of chance to do it. And like he said, a guy that doesn't want to block and basically only wants to catch the ball, that's a problem. Like convincing that guy to block is a problem. But if a guy's willing to do it, they just need to get the coaching and the technique. That guy you can work with. And I think that seems like the type of guy Arroyo is.
Yeah, if he's a guy that is not great at blocking and has got long arms, I can make a suggestion is, whoever you're playing that week, try to get the same color gloves as the guy's jersey you're playing against, so the refs don't see white gloves on a black jersey every week where you're, dark gloves on a white jersey all the time. So, try to hide a little bit. They're going to see the guy getting pulled back, but at least try to, cover it up a little bit. That's the only trick of the trade I can give to him on that one, but I'm sure he'll figure that one out pretty fast. So
yeah, I was gonna say one more thing too. When we talk about he does have versatility too. I was just taking a look real quick because I wanted to make sure, but slot snaps, he played 199, and then inline, he played 158. That's a good enough split to show that the coaching staff at Miami at least felt comfortable enough to have him do it. And again, like you said, JT, he has the frame. He just maybe needs to get with the right coach to kind of coach him up on where to put his hands and kind of figure that out. But it is encouraging to see that he was also lined up almost a 50-50 split in both spots too. So,
yes. We talked about before the show, some of these guys, we go out, some people are, they have things to talk about intangibles, off the field issues. We had a big conversation with Shedeur Sanders last time about all the things he went through with his being his dad in the spotlight all the time. And, as far as intangibles off the field are concerned, this guy kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. So, I mean, did you guys dig anything up as far as intangibles are concerned, as far as things like that? I don't think there's much to talk about as far as intangibles. This might be a mute point for this show itself, actually. So, Peter, JT, do you guys have anything? Because I really don't have much off the field stuff.
No, I didn't hear anything. I mean, I'm sure once we get closer to the combine, maybe some stuff will pop up. But as for everything I looked over, I didn't see anything concerning about him. So.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I didn't hear anything, real bad one way or the other on him. And so again, when you got a guy that's basically played one season, he hasn't really been in spotlight and nobody's really been talking about him because he's barely played. I think he got, I don't know what it even was. I'd have to look at it. It was like 4 or 6 games in those 2 years is all he even got in before he was hurt. So it wasn't even like he played half a year and got hurt. He was like, he got hurt in the first quarter of the year every year. So I think, just
in 2021, he played 12 games. He had 5 receptions. That was his rookie year. 2022, 5 games, 5 receptions. And then he played 6 games with 1 reception in 2023. 2024, he played 13 games, 35 receptions, 590 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So this really was just a breakout year. I mean, just across the board, just look at this. Look who showed up today, kind of thing.
Well, and it's better that Cam Ward was there too. I mean, the passing game, the offense for Miami was much improved this year. They hadn't been great the last couple of seasons as far as throwing the ball, new coaching staff and things like that. So, yeah. So again, I think there's a lot to like about Arroyo, but he is, like he said, he's a little bit of a mystery. I mean, he showed up at the Senior Bowl and a lot of people are like, okay, like, who's this guy? I watched a ton of college football, John, you know that. And he wasn't a guy that was like super high on my radar, even though he had a nice year for Miami. And I watched a ton of Miami because I had Cam Ward in a ton of C2C leagues. But I didn't see, even when I was watching games, he wasn't the guy I noticed all the time because they had so many other good players on that team. So I just think he is really, when you talk about like under the radar guys, I think he is like an absolute under the radar player who only I think can go up with all these, combine, doing the I don't know if he got invited to the combine. I assume he would, but going to the combine, doing the pro days, doing all that stuff. I think it's for a guy like that who's a high end athlete. I think those things only help those types of players in those situations because they can show what type of athlete they are.
Pete, we're going to start with the NFL draft right now, okay? So we're going to talk about fantasy in a minute and things like that and what team you should go to or where you fit best at. But where do you think – you could name a team here also, but where do you think that he's going to go in the NFL draft? Probably not day 1, round 1, day 2, round 2 and 3, and then, that kind of deal. Where do you think he's going to be a day 2 guy, a day 3 guy? Where do you think he's going to be at in the NFL draft?
I think if the draft happened today with no combine, no interviews, nothing, I think he's probably mid-second, maybe late second. But he can go up, like JT said. I mean, if he gets to the combine and, crushes his 3-cone, right, for the lateral quickness and just, looks really good and crushes his interviews, yeah, I could see a team falling in love with him and maybe taking him like first couple picks on day 2. I don't believe the hype in round 1. I think it's a little bit of smoke. There's a ton of talent on the D line, and I think a lot of that talent, there's not a lot of top end talent in this draft, in my opinion, but there's a lot of good talent between like picks 20 and 32 that I think that's going to push him probably out of round 1. And I just don't, I think there's a lot of hype and he stood out and he played really well, but I don't think he's going to go round 1. Like some of the big guys are talking that there are talks about it. I would guess probably if I had to put, my name on it, I'd say probably mid round 2 is where I expect him going at this point. Oh, you're muted, John.
I love muting myself. It's my favorite hobby. So, what's your favorite team that you'd like to see him on? Like, you talked about, kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. You talked about Greg Dulcich, a little bit earlier, but
John's a big Greg Dulcich fan.
I'll get over that. Eventually, I'll get over that. It is what it is. So I love all the terrible tight ends. That's my job. But
yeah,
what team do you think would be the best fit for a guy like Arroyo?
Yeah, I mean, I selfishly, I'd love him in Denver. I think he'd be a great fit there. and speaking of Greg Dulcich, right? And obviously I'm a Broncos fan. I also think he would be a good fit in Cincinnati. Right. If T. Higgins does go somewhere else, this isn't a very great wide receiver class, and the Bengals, maybe they take like a Luther Burton. I don't know, but they also have some other holes that maybe they could swing on him in the second round. That's kind of where I think he's going to go, is mid-second, and that's where they're drafting. So yeah, I think he would be a good fit there. They moved Jazeki around a ton this year and played him in the slot, and I think he would be a really good power slot. And I think he could be a good fit in Denver just because Sean Payton, the way, he's used like Jimmy Graham in the past, where he has used the power slot and this joker role. I think those two would be really good fits for him. Those are the two. And honestly, I think he could be a good fit in Carolina, but I just don't think with Jatavion Sanders, I don't think that they're going to go ahead and spend high draft capital on another tight end. So,
yeah, Sanders got hurt later in the season a little bit, but he was still very productive. So yeah, that's Jatavion Sanders.
Yeah, Johnny, I was going to say that's kind of was one of the spots I was thinking was maybe Carolina. Now, I don't think they would go high second. I think there's a chance if he fell in the draft and got to them, they would take him. I don't think they're going to reach to get him because they need so much other spots. I think a little bit depends on how much they think about Sanders, because he kind of fell to them last year. I could see that happening. That's kind of a spot that was I was eyeing for him. I like the Cincinnati and Denver spots. I think the Rams might be a decent spot as well. I'm just looking at the draft order. I just can't see any team outside of the Rams taking him in the first round.
Yep.
And the Rams, I just don't see them going tight end in the first round. I don't. So I don't think he goes in the first round. I think mid-second to mid-third is really the spot. And I think it really just kind of depends on who falls where. Because again, I think this is a more, I love the running backs. I do like this tight end class. This is a pretty loaded defensive class. So I think you're going to see where guys fall defensively is going to affect some of these offensive guys. Possibly I can see there's some spots where somebody was maybe going to go tight end and a D tackle or a D end that they didn't think was going to get to them falls, and they end up switching it up and going, we'll take whatever tight ends gets to us next round and take this guy. So I could see something like that happen. Other than that, like the Rams, I think would be a nice spot. I do like Carolina because why I like Sanders, I think they could go with two guys. I think there's a chance they might want to have two players. And again, another team I could see sneakily maybe in the second or third would be the Jets. I could see the Jets maybe really liking him. And they've got some older tight ends that he could maybe play behind for a year and kind of work his way into the lineup, and then kind of see him kind of break out near the end of the year. And then you can be like, okay, he's our guy next year kind of thing.
Why did you mention the Colts, JT? They need a tight end. They take 7 tight ends every year, and they never hit on one.
I know. Here's the thing is, not that I don't think the Colts would take him. I think there's other guys the Colts would take over him is the only thing. If he gets, I don't think the Colts would take him high, but if he got to the third round and the Colts didn't take a tight end in the first or second round, say Warren either didn't get to them or they decide they like a cornerback or a DN better than Warren, then I can absolutely see the Colts going third round and taking one of these guys. I just don't see them, if it's not the top end guy, I don't see them going tight end outside of like Warren or Loveland at 14. If they don't get one of those guys, I think they wait. Because
Mo Alley-Cox is inevitable.
Yeah, Mo Alley's going to be there for. They've got some guys like I think they need tight end. I really do. I'd love to see them take tight end. So I could see. We know how Chris Ballard drafts is going to come down the RAS score. He's going to wait see whatever tight end has an off the charts RAS score, and that's who he's going to take. That's what he always does. He always takes the guy that's either number one or in the top 3 in RAS scores for tight ends. That's what he loves to do. I think if they wait, I think Arando Gadsden, it's another episode, but I think Arando Gadsden would be a nice steal for them in like the third or fourth round if they don't go Warren. I love Warren. I love Warren or Colston. I think it would be great in the first round for them, but I could see them going defense in the first round and then going, hey, we like what's in this class at tight end. and we're waiting and see what guy gets to us later, because I definitely think that's something they would consider. I've done a bunch of mocks where I've got like Fannin in like the second or third round. I've got Gadsden in the fourth round with them. So I think they're going tight end. I think they're going to take somebody. It just depends. But I can see Arroyo. He reminds me of why am I blanking on his name right this second?
What team?
Kind of Darren
Colts.
Waller.
Well, I think that. And then they also took Miami's tight end 2 years ago that had a huge RAS score. And I can't believe I'm blanking on his name right now. Oh,
wasn't Granson. Granson wasn't there, right? No.
Granson went to SMU. I'm looking it up right now.
While you look it up, I also was going to say, what about the Patriots with McDaniels? Like if they with they had the two tight ends with Gronk and Hernandez, like could they get weird and load up and run two tight ends with him and Hunter Henry?
I think that's an interesting spot too. I was thinking that maybe there. It's Will Mallory was who I was thinking about. Will Mallory, who they took out of Miami a couple of years ago, was a huge RAS score guy that they took in like the 6th, 7th round. So fifth round in 2023. I didn't want to say it wrong, but I absolutely think they're going to load up on one of those guys again. It just depends on who gets to them and where they want to take them.
Yes. So, this is funny because on the last show we talked about fantasy spots. Okay, we're talking about rookie drafts now. Most of us are kind of dynasty oriented with our rookie draft coming up this year. So, it's early in the process, and these drafts were held right before the Senior Bowl. So Tyler Warren went 108, and then Colson Loveland went 112. Harold Fannin went 210, and as of right now, Elijah Arroyo went in the 4th round at 401. Mason Taylor went 402. Gadsden went 4-4, and Gunnar Helm went 4-6. So as of right now, like the ADP-ish kind of for just the draft I was in, that was tight end premium. Arroyo went 401, almost being a no-name in his rookie draft. That's going to change a lot, I think, in the next couple of months, especially like we said before, where after the combine, things like that. Where do you think a guy like this is? Have you guys done any rookie drafts yet? And where's Arroyo going in your rookie drafts? Pete, start with you.
Yeah, I've seen him somewhere on that back end 2nd round, early 3rd, and I just think it's people that maybe aren't doing a ton of research, guys that just want to get in mocks, and there's a lot of hype around Arroyo, and because of that, people are drafting him high. And it's not a great wide receiver class, so I think that also pushes some tight ends up a little bit. And the running backs obviously have been going a lot of running backs in round 2. I'm trying to load up on as many 2nd rounders as I can to take as many swings at that position. But yeah, late round 2, early round 3, I don't know if he'll settle there, but I think the hype with mobile just happening has kind of gotten people a little excited about him. So
JT, how about the ADP for you?
I think for me, we're outside these top 3 tight ends. I think it's going to really come down to, is it a start 2 tight end or a 2-point tight end premium, or is it 1.5? I think that's going to make a big difference. But I really think you're going to see heavy 2nd round running backs, and then anyone at the beginning of the 3rd is going to go whatever running backs are still there. And so I think you're going to see outside the top couple tight ends, I think you're going to see the tight ends get pushed down a bit. I think you're looking at mid to late 3rd, early 4th, where you're going to see like tight end 4, 5, 6, 7 come off the board. And I just think that people want to take so many shots at the running back crew. And unless some of these running backs after the draft, they get 7th round draft capital, and we thought they might get taken in the 4th or 5th. I just think you're going to see a ton of people take swings at running back in the 2nd and 3rds. I know I've set up a lot of my drafts that way, where I traded for a ton of 2nds and 3rds, because I know I'm not going to hit on 4 running backs, but I want to take 4 running backs and hope one of the 4 hit. And so unless I'm like desperate for tight end or it's a huge premium, if I miss out one of the early guys, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until they start coming off the board. And that's where I would drive like late 3rd, early 4th. I'd start grabbing like Mason Taylor, Arroyo, Gadsden. That's where I would want to grab those guys if I can. Because again, I like those guys a lot, but I don't think I'm going to be as desperate to take them as I will running back and try to get hit on one of these running backs. I think that is what's going to push them down. Though I think technically they could probably be drafted higher. But it just depends on situation. I mean, if Arroyo hits a home run situation where it looks like he's like going to come in and be tight end one right off the bat, which you don't see a lot, and let's just be honest, in tight ends, because teams have to look at them and have to figure out what they're doing on. We've shown they, outside of the top end guys, it takes a year or 2 or 3 for these guys to really develop. So he's a guy I would be drafting, expecting that hopefully he hits later. If I was drafting Arroyo in like the late second, early third, I'd be like, how much production am I going to get out of him this year? I'd be nervous about that. It would only be if I had like Kelsey and some other older tight end, and I'm trying to cover myself 2 years from now, would I maybe draft him a little bit higher? But I think they're going to get pushed down slightly because of all the running backs.
All right. Rookie draft, tight end premium, 0.75. Okay. Your regular PPR, tight end premium, 0.75. You guys tell me, just say the names. Would you rather have Ali Gordon or Elijah Arroyo?
I like Ollie Gordon just because I just think he's gonna stay in the league for a while. Now, will he be a superstar? I don't. I feel like he's got like a Najee Harris kind of arc to him.
The names. The names. We got a couple more guys to go.
I like Gordon. Yeah, I like Gordon too. I think Najee's a good comp for him.
Right,
I like Gordon.
Damian Martinez or Elijah Arroyo?
I'm Martinez.
Okay,
I like Martinez. I'm a Martinez guy, though. I'm way higher on Martinez than other people. I think he's actually going to be a better pro than he was a college player.
Cam Scatterbo. Or Arroyo.
I'm not high. He's out of my top 10.
He's out of my top 10. Yeah.
I go Arroyo.
That's tough too, because Scatterbo's outside of my top 10. It would have to be a prime landing spot, or he'd have to end up on one of my favorite teams, and then I would draft him. I'd probably go Arroyo to tell you the truth.
Dylan Sampson.
I'm Sampson, clearly. I'm taking Sampson for sure over Arroyo.
Yeah. RJ Harvey.
I'd take Harvey.
I'd take Harvey too.
Damn. DJ Giddens.
That's getting closer.
Yeah, I think I take Arroyo. Giddens going to depend on the landing spot for me.
Yeah, that one's really close to me. I probably.
All right,
man.
Two more.
I'm probably taking Giddens, but barely.
Jordan James.
I'd go Arroyo.
Probably Arroyo on that one.
All right, and Jacques Hunter.
I like him. I like him, but I think I'm going Arroyo because I think Arroyo has a better chance to stick in the NFL.
All right, so
I like Arroyo there. There is a couple running backs that are lower down the list in a lot of people rankings that I would take over him, though, because there's a couple guys in like the 10, 12, 13 range that a lot of people don't love that I have in my top 8. So there's a couple other guys I would probably grab in there.
Who, Woody Marks?
I love Woody Marks.
Yeah,
Woody Marks
I know you do.
Woody Marks and LaQuint Allen from Syracuse are two guys that I think are highly underrated at running back right now. I love both those guys' receiving profile, and if they end up on the right team, I really like both those guys.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm probably way too high on RJ Harvey. I worry about his pass pro, but man, if he can figure out that a little bit, he's one of my guys. I'm not that high on Judkins, but I know you guys are probably going to dig into those guys more, so I won't talk too much about it.
We're going to dig in all of them. Don't worry. We'll be everywhere. We're going to hit all these guys. One by one, we're taking them all down.
As long as me and John have time. We're gonna do them until we run out of time.
There you go.
Or people. Yeah.
People. Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. So we talked about the teams. We talked about draft capital. We talked about fantasy stats. Fantasy stuff. All the stuff. Last words. I think we got it all in. But Peter, where can everybody find you at again for the people who didn't hear in the beginning?
Yeah, I'm over at the Face Off Sports Network on YouTube, Supernova38 with 2 R's on X, and I am working on doing something. Something's in the works in the next month or so, so hopefully I can announce that. But we'll see how things kind of play out. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
What's in the works? Can we be part of it too, or what?
I gotta see if it shakes out for me first.
Oh, very good, very good. All right, cool. Tell your boy I said hi. You're
Servino.
Servino, yeah, he's a good dude, man.
Yeah, so, I love those guys.
JT, where can everybody find you at? What's going on?
Yep, you can find me at JT Orange on the X. DLF, I got all kinds of rookie spotlight articles on there. So if you're a member over there, go over and check that out. As well as my IDP rankings and my Devi rankings are on DLF as well. I'll stick around here with you for Trey Harris after this. And then if you stick around later, on the Stu with JT Brew, we're going to have a 2-round rookie mock draft. We're going to jump into a few of these. John, you're going to be on there with a couple of my Holler John's going to be on there with me and my buddy Richie. So we're going to have a couple of us breaking down a 2-round super flex, 1 PPR, 1.5 tight end premium on that. So later on tonight here on Fantasy and Frames.
Fabuloso. John McGlynn 75 on X. You can find me here doing all my stuff. I don't write. I try to once in a while, and I realize I hate it, so I just do podcast stuff. So this is where you find me at. If I had more time, I do a lot more podcasts, but I don't because I have a job and 18 kids and a wife, and I get to do this when I get a chance. But, hey, John McGlynn 75 on X, Fantasy and Frames for all the good stuff, and we will talk to you later. Pete, thanks a lot for jumping on today, man. This was a good show. Appreciate you coming prepared with all the good stuff about our boy Elijah Arroyo. Have a good one.